Put on the
Oh,
fucking.
make sure to wear pants.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. Put two things you need to know about Japan. I don't know why my voice changed like that. Wear pants and buy a plane ticket and arrive. I took like a 10-kilometer boat ride, about an hour and 40 minutes through the mountains. Fucking great. Cool as shit. I live in the city, so I kind of forget, like, oh, you know.
All right, we're officially
outside
live
of-
for the second time.
Okay, that's it. We're done with that.
So just for everyone who's trying to tune back in, we had a technical malfunction. So Matt cut the stream just before Evan revealed that he'd taken his pants off. And that's an American version for pants, not UK version for pants. It's a wholesome family podcast. We don't condone podcasting with no underwear on.
All right, so the UK version of pants is underwear?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is
Because
also
they would
the Japanese version of pants, which they probably adopted from the UK version of pants.
I wonder why we call them pants then.
It is a
It's a mystery. Probably
mystery. We'll never-
it's the same reason that you refer to certain things with outdated language that we gave up on a few hundred years ago.
How
Like
good is
getting
it?
water out of
How good is everybody's
water
Spanish?
out of a faucet.
your Spanish is probably better than all of ours, Matt, for sure.
I was thinking pantalones is pants, right?
Yeah.
We would well the old English word was pantaloon.
Okay. All right. So that we've solved it. That's where it came from.
Yeah,
There you go.
but those could have been worn under another garment, which is why that's why you call them underpants,
Okay.
because you had your pantaloons, then you had your underpants because you wore them under your pants.
Right.
But now we just call them pants because that's how language evolves.
This is so much more interesting the second time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we've improved.
So things we've discovered today. I can name cheese by looking at the cheese that Evan was cutting.
That is quite true. I have no fucking idea how you figured out what the cheese that I was cutting.
Emmental
That sounds like
has
a
holes in,
euphemism.
Emmental has holes in, so when you were slicing it, I could see that there was a divot in the wedge of cheese that you had. So
And then
I assumed it
he
was
had
Emmental.
Which he was 100% correct on.
All the points to me. Liam's not gone outside and has taken the time not to finish The Last of Us Part 2 or play Ghost of Tsushima.
You
And
can't do one
Matt-
without the other. I'm banned from playing Ghost of Tsushima until I finish The Last of Us. So it's a problem.
Fair enough.
And Matt has issues with Zoom at the moment. So now we're here.
We are.
The only global podcast that talks about two things that we love, good beer and video games. We are Pixel Pints. Follow us on Twitter at pixel_pints, where I may have accused Tim Sweeney of veiling self-interest as altruism just before the podcast started. May have done that.
Very well.
And follow us on Instagram, where I've been the only person to post any video game footage, and Evan gets all the likes because he goes to exotic locations with cans of beer. And
All I do is go somewhere like 10 meters from where I live and just place a beer down. So I told you, my only defining characteristic is that I live in Japan. That's it. Otherwise, I'd be wrestled in there with all the Seattle coffee cunts.
The one thing that I posted was our homemade curry. We got like 2 likes. And I was like, fuck this. I'm done with Instagram.
Done. Fuck this shit. Yeah. It looked pretty good though. I mean, you were watching the F1 as well, right?
Yeah.
I also see. I'm paying attention. I saw that. I think. You can actually like your own posts.
That was that was one of the likes that I got, Evan. So thanks for that.
I thought that was quite. Yeah, you made a curry and you're watching the F1.
Yeah.
That's worth a like, at least one, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I don't have my own Instagram account, so I didn't want. I can't go in and like everyone's stuff. So I just post our own. Yeah, this is going really well.
This is the saddest fucking podcast.
Right, so
All right,
because
let's
Evan's
go.
been drinking all day, he's deferred the quiz to next week. And Matt, you chose your own topic, and I've got Go Chocobo. You have 8 questions on your chosen topic. What was your chosen topic?
Final Fantasy was my chosen topic.
Good one.
Right. Evan, do you want to announce what your chosen topic was?
My chosen topic was the TurboGrafx 16.
Interesting.
What? Wow. I know
So,
nothing about
all right,
that.
so now do I have a strategic advantage? I can research the TurboGrafx 16 in the next week.
I think that's
Well, you
fair.
can steal all
Steal-
those questions.
yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Damn it.
But Matt, the thing is, you and I can research as much as we want. We're never going to know what questions he's going to ask.
This
And I
is
bet
true.
you, I've done it, Matt. I've done it in the past. I've researched what he's had been talking about, and he'll throw questions at you. It's just, oh well, I'm fucked. So, I mean, do what you can, because I'm going to research a little bit. I played the TurboGrafx 16. It doesn't mean, I think I said 16. It doesn't mean that I'm like the master of the system.
Right.
But I bet you any money he's going to throw questions at us like
Because
neither of us are
the
gonna
Master
know.
System was Sega's.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
Matt,
who knows?
you have 8 questions on Final Fantasy
Okay.
starting now. What year was the original Final Fantasy released?
1986.
It's 1987.
Oh fuck. Are you serious?
Yep. Who was the lead designer from Squaresoft on the original Final Fantasy?
Sakaguchi.
It was Sakaguchi. So 2 points. Including Japanese and Western console, mobile, and PC releases, how many times has Final Fantasy VII been released?
I should know this.
Hey, you fucking bought Final Fantasy VII enough.
I
that's for sure.
bought it most of the times that it's come
Jesus Christ.
out.
You gotta stop, man.
So are
And
you?
what I'm talking about is the years in which it was released as a re-release or update or new version.
All right,
So
I'm
years,
sorry.
so not the number of platforms.
Not the number of platforms,
Oh,
the number
God.
of years it's been released as a separate resold title.
Burkoff, this is actually a ploy. It's actually an intervention. You cannot play Final Fantasy VII again.
On the Xbox.
This is our plea. Anywhere. It's done. You
Question.
have to move on.
Keith, the remake wouldn't count, though, would it? Because that's technically...
It's technically a
game.
different game. It's remake. It's not 7.
Well, it's got Final Fantasy VII in the title, so it does count.
You see, I helped you out there. I helped you out there,
so
Matt.
I have to name the years.
No, just the number of years.
The number of years.
Yep. Since its original release in 1997. So you know there's 1 year. How many?
There's so
How
many.
many?
There's so fucking many.
I want to say at least 10 times.
That's more than one answer potentially. Would you like to give a
I'm
specific?
gonna go
number?
with 10. I'm just gonna go with 10.
10. It's actually 7 different years.
Oh wow, that's really weird that it's
So
7
you've got
and 7.
1997, 2012, 1998, 2015, 2016, 2019, and 2020.
Please be excited.
Okay.
I think we all remember that.
Oh, yeah, because it just released on Xbox.
Yeah.
There's 2 different mobile versions released as well. iOS was released in 2015 and Android version was 2016.
Right.
What
just
is the
bring them out at the same
title of
time.
what? Shut up. What is the title of the Final Fantasy movie spin-off?
Spirits Within.
It is The
No.
Spirits Within.
What? Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
Is it your quiz?
He was
I
thinking.
was thinking of the 7
you were thinking of Advent
Sorry.
Children, but
I
Keith
was thinking of
specifically
Advent
said
Children.
spin-off. Yeah.
Right. For what year was Final Fantasy VII inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame?
I didn't know that it was.
It's a hint for
2013.
next week. It was 2018.
All right.
And a hint for next week, that question won't appear in Evan's quiz because none of the games on the TurboGrafx 16 made into the Hall of Fame.
How dare you talk about my
Bonk.
my TGX 16 like that? How dare you talk about bonk like that? You know how I bonk?
With no pants on.
Yeah. And yeah, what yes. That's all I got.
Oh, that's funny on so many different levels.
It's great.
What was the first Final Fantasy game that featured online functionality?
Was it 11?
Yes, it was 11.
Hey, good job, bud. I was gonna say like yeah,
I
these
was thinking
questions
that
aren't joking
well,
around.
because 6 has 2-player. You can actually play that game 2-player.
But you're also thinking the quizmaster is gonna fuck you over with some like question you think you have the answer and you don't. But then you stuck to your guns and you
Yeah.
said 11 and it paid off. Yeah, good on you.
So far, three out of 7 ain't bad.
No.
Final Fantasy VII had a spin-off extreme sports game for mobile. What extreme sport was it?
Snowboarding.
It was snowboarding.
Yeah.
You brought it back
Wasn't
to
there
500.
snowboarding in the original
From the
game?
golden saucer, pedestrian questions you're asking this guy. I like the way this is going here. Let me tell you.
Right, last question. Final Fantasy Tactics has had how many different releases?
4.
It is 4.
Okay.
Oh my god.
5 out
What
of
the
8.
Fuck.
Nice.
Shit, that's
So
pretty
10,
good,
10
man.
points takes you to 44. Evan, next week you'll have 8 questions on the TurboGrafx 16.
Jesus Christ, I think Matt's turning his franchise around. I'm fucking sweating here.
That was great.
And it ain't the heat, let me tell you. Sorry.
Right, so we're here today to talk about choice. Do you choose to believe that Epic Games is an altruistic company and not a self-serving bunch of bastards trying to get more money from the billions that they're already making? Or is the key choice now going to be, which console do I buy? Do I buy the PS5 or do I buy the PS5 with the no disc drive?
The ultimate choice for every gamer.
But there are some key pieces of information that have come out recently that made us think about choice in video games. So do you choose to play Cyberpunk 2077 on current gen hardware, or do you do what most normal people would do and wait for an upgrade and then play it on that? Or if you have a beefy enough PC, play it on that. But within what they released recently in terms of the Cyberpunk Nightwire City
Do you
thingamajigger,
replace words around?
Volume
Night
2?
City Wire.
That's the one.
No, okay. Thanks. Thanks. Nearly called you Evan because you two look so similar.
Yeah.
He's my
It's
brother.
the facial hair that confuses me. The fact that we spoke about this before is about what is our starting class going to be, not the you, and what does that actually mean for you to be in the game? It reminded me of a franchise that I played a few times. Some key decisions were made across all 3 Mass Effect games, as you can see by the decision tree behind me. So we're going to talk for a little bit today, at least, about video games that made us make meaningful choices. Because a lot of the choice that you get in games is pretty facile.
Yeah, for the most part.
Or we could say soporific. That's another word that means things.
That is another word.
You know, it's interesting. So you brought this topic, and I immediately thought of Mass Effect. And I struggled to find like other games that I could think of that have as meaningful of choices as the Mass Effect series did for me.
That's because you're a learned and wise man.
But so how many? You guys have all played the Far Cry games, though, right?
Yep.
I've played one Far Cry game,
Played one Far Cry.
not all the way through.
3 mainly. I fell off the other 2.
So I was listening to an interview with Alex Hutchinson, who was the designer for, or the creative designer for 4, I believe. And I don't know if it's 3 or 4, but in one of those games, you've been captured by the bad guy in the very beginning, and
That's
then
4. Pagan Min.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you wait long enough, so Pagan Min comes in and he tells you, like, we're gonna take you to the helicopter. You're gonna go see your mother, and just wait for a minute. And then obviously the player then breaks out, and you go on your murdering spree. You do have the option to sit there and wait, and if you wait for over 15 minutes, I believe, and just don't do anything, he comes back in, takes you to the helicopter, releases you. The game is over. You never had to kill anybody in the entire game. It's the most
And you get an achievement.
So one of the most genius things that I've ever heard. And he did an interview with Soren Johnson, who's one of the lead designers for Firaxis and the Civilization games. And he was like, it was an opportunity, and I'm going to butcher his quote, but it was an opportunity to say, you player are the fucked up one, not the game. Like, you chose to go on the murdering spree. You could have just sat and waited. But I just thought that was really, really interesting.
That would have been $60 well spent.
Right?
So that's the game. Better trade this shit in now.
And he says, like, as he's leaving, he's like, oh wait, he's like, just wait here. Just wait here. I'll be back. He's actually telling you, no, I will be back. This will all be over. Wait here. And being a video game, it's like, oh no, wait, like, I have agency now. I'm going to fucking, sneak out of this place. But if you stay there, like Pagan Min said, you're gonna beat the game before anything happens.
If say a game that Evan loves, where you could choose not to murder the peaceful giant creatures, and everything turned out fine in the end?
Wouldn't turn out fine though.
Okay, it wouldn't turn out fine, but you don't have to go around murdering peaceful giant creatures. We're referring to Shadow of the Colossus, by the way.
Yes. Well, I mean, if only you did have that choice in the game. Unfortunately, there is no choice, because the only way to beat the game is to kill all 16 Colossi and then unleash the spirit of Dormu, who has been...
dormant.
Sorry. Hey, Duke, Dutch, it's all the same thing. I had a nightmare about getting Dutch's name wrong in Predator from the week before. Like, seriously, like, that's like unfriend mode level shit. Predator is one of the best movies ever made, and I fucking called him Duke. Like, out.
Thank God it was just a dream.
I wish. Yeah. But Dormund, right?
Okay, let's move on. Matt, what about another game series that you like that has a lot of different elements of choice within it? What about the Elder Scrolls series?
I don't really feel like that has choice. I feel like the choices that you make aren't necessarily meaningful to the story. The choices that you make are meaningful to the stories that you go down. So the choices that you make in the Elder Scrolls games are more about what stories you choose to participate in, rather than choices that you
your
make
influence on the story themselves.
Yeah. I
would say the Fallout games are a little bit better for that as well.
Yeah. So New Vegas, I think, comes to mind of those.
Definitely.
Evan, what about a series that I've not played that I know you have and you enjoyed? What about The Witcher 3 in terms of player choice and more importantly, making meaningful choices? And it's not just whether you sleep with Yeris or is it Yeris? Yennefer and who's the other one?
Yennefer and Triss.
Triss, that's it.
Yeah. from the guy who
I
hasn't
wish I
played
was in
the
a
game.
position to. Yeah, the guy that played 100 hours of it, DLC and all. Even for the DLC, both of them, there is a good choice and a bad choice, which they have labeled.
Is it as binary as that?
I think it actually might be that especially in Blood and Wine, where you're kind of contact this Nosferatu motherfucker. He's like the main vampire guy, and you can talk to him to help you out with the ending, but also you don't have to do that. I don't remember how it works. It's actually been quite a while since I've beaten it. I'm not any use to you on this episode, by the way. I hope I hope we're clear here.
Thank God you're just here for the eye candy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's some good stuff going on in those 2 DLCs. Oh, let me tell you, holy shit! It is actually really good. I just don't remember.
Because one of the things that I liked about the choices that you were given in Mass Effect is, yes, they were binary. It was, you can choose to save this person or this person. You can choose to kill the Geth or not kill the Geth.
Right.
But you didn't know the outcome of the choice that you were going to make until potentially later on in the same game, or even the next entire game.
God.
Which is quite unique for a series to plan that out. Yeah, it's one of the few. If I mean, has there ever been any series that has you made a decision in a game and then it had carried on to the next?
No,
like that.
I don't. Well, that was quite arbitrary of me just saying no. But from my understanding, this was slightly revolutionary. Is probably too strong a word, but
I mean, it's
unique.
It's very unique. Yeah, it definitely is.
And I don't think that anyone's ever tried to replicate it because it's too fucking hard. You need to think. It's like playing chess against the grandmaster. You've got to think 2 or 3 moves in advance. Guessing Liam's internet's dropped out again, or he was just thinking maybe I should play The Last of Us Part 2. Because so to use the example of, you had in Mass Effect 2 the opportunity to leave the Geth as being dormant, or you had the opportunity to delete all of their code and basically kill them all off.
Right.
So you had an entire game beforehand that was telling you that AI is evil and artificial intelligence will be the end of organic life. You're given this choice, but in the third game, spoilers, if you chose to save the Geth or not delete their code, they can actually become a key ally in the third game. And if you play it in a certain way, again, coming to the point about choice, you can fix the hundreds of years of war and conflict between the Quarians and the Geth, and you can give them both a homeworld. Or at that point, you're given the choice of, do you give the Geth death or the Quarians their homeworld back?
Yeah.
So it's almost as if, yes, the choice is given to you and it is just good or bad or A or B. But what makes the choices within it so impactful and meaningful is what's led up to it. It's not just, oh, am I going to swap my assault rifle for this shotgun because I can get a 20% damage boost and an armor bonus, which seems to be the way that certain choice is delivered nowadays.
Yeah, I mean,
Matt, I'm really looking for you to help me out here because I'm not going to get any assistance from it.
So the one of the hardest choices that I had with Mass Effect 3 was the antidote. Whether you
curing the genophage.
Yeah, for the genophage. Whether you don't actually release it into the environment or...
Well, sorry to interrupt, but you've actually got two choices leading up to that point as well.
True, yeah. It gives you the option to like. There's a couple of the game almost like nudges you, like you can let them know now, and then you're like, no, I don't want to let them know, and then you're in the like whatever the transport is.
The landing craft thing.
Yeah, like you can tell them now. No, I don't want to tell them now, and then you have the option to stop it on the planet itself.
Liam's asking to get let back in.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let me see if I can do that for him. Admit him, and he should show up. But, yeah, no, so I did that a couple different ways, and I always felt bad no matter what I did. I always felt like every decision you make is kind of a shitty decision.
Yeah, and Liam, we're talking about Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I was just watching the stream. Virgin internet. That's the problem.
And what I liked about that is, yeah, you say the game's nudging you to do something, but within that, there's no right and wrong choice. There's only degrees of rightness and wrongness.
Right.
So you've got the opportunity to come clean and say, yes, the Solarians are trying to withhold military support and intelligence. If I lie to you and say that we're going to cure this, but we're actually not going to, because I want them to be on my side. But if I do cure it, I could create galaxy-wide imbalance within the races that exist within the Milky Way. So which is the right thing to do? Is it morally right to create potential for galactic war for resources, or is it morally wrong to lie to the people about their ability to cure a genetically made reproductive sickness?
Right. Yeah, which is made worse because you spend at least an hour on the base bringing the Krogan
matriarch.
Yeah, the matriarch. Like that's a good hour and a half segment of gameplay where you have to like guide her through to get her back to the Normandy. It's like you have a huge investment in making sure that the genophage is cured, and then do you turn around then and say like, well, no, we're not actually going to cure it. We're just going to make them think that they're cured. It's kind of crazy.
And then the last thing is with Morden. I need to play this game again.
Yeah.
Just talking about it just makes me. I'm either that or fuck it. I'm going to buy a Series X and just play the up-res versions off the discs of the collector's editions that I've got. Collector's editions, but some of the collector's editions do say it's better with Kinect.
Oh God!
Like number 3, yeah.
So if I were to play them again, at least I wouldn't have to play them better with Kinect written on it. So who you can either play it as kind of a duplicitous bastard who's just out to
amass the biggest army possible.
Yeah, well, you could play it as someone who's got some sense of moral integrity.
Right.
I basically go one side and the other whenever I played it. So I just go full Paragon on one, full Renegade on the other. There's no in between.
Well, isn't that sometimes the good thing as well? Is that sometimes you play through it and you don't realize you've made the wrong choice until after it's happened.
When you dropped off, that was one of the things that we mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that, because the first time I played it, I got almost everything right. Luckily for me, the third game. But then I talked to people afterwards, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that could happen. I didn't know this could happen. You know, like the situations with Tally and Legion on Rannoch. Was it Rannoch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the situation with the genophage and I mean, Miranda died in my playthrough, but there's like so many other things that can happen as well.
Yeah, saving her
Mass
is...
Effect so much more choice than who to bang.
What? I didn't know this.
But I don't know whether you guys covered it, but it sort of goes with what you were saying, Keith. I always love not just the choices in Mass Effect, but the way, even if those choices don't really amount to much, it sort of makes you look inward at yourself as a person. Like, what do my choices say about me as a person?
Well, I think it says quite... Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, sorry, and also then when you replay the game and make the other choices, it makes you reconsider, is that such a bad choice? Like, I wouldn't make that choice, but would it be so wrong if I did? I think even the renegade options make you think sometimes about what is the right choice.
Would I kick a mercenary out of a window?
Yes, absolutely.
It entirely depends on what mood I'm in.
Can we all agree that punching the reporter should not be a renegade only option?
Yeah.
I love the fact that in 2, when she comes back and you swing for her and she ducks and then you just punch her in again.
Yeah.
Went in for one more.
Yeah. But so we could just keep going on talking about Mass Effect for the next half hour or so. But are there any other games that people can think of that offer you really meaningful, fundamental choices? Liam's nodding, so I'm hoping he's got one.
Yeah,
I can think of a handful actually. I think one game, ironically, that gets sort of overshadowed by its because it's the sequel to the Walking Dead Telltale game, and the second season, moreover, gets overshadowed by the first game.
Second season's really good.
Okay, that was really good. And Liam's gone again.
Dropped
what a cliffhanger.
I would say that all of the Telltale games really are sort of built around you making decisions that take you down a specific path, or at least they lead you to believe that that's the case.
Well, some of it as well is. Sorry, Evan, you were going to say something.
No, it's fine. I was gonna start on something that I. Oh, he's back. There he is.
And frozen again. So one thing. No, you're moving. It's okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you want to finish your thought about the Telltale games, Liam?
I could. I don't know where I stopped for you guys. But I guess I was talking about the fact that the
second game gets overshadowed.
Yeah, exactly. The second game has a bunch of meaningful choices that severely affect the characters in it, and they really morally make you think about whether you're making the right choices in terms of the fates to all of these characters. Even though it's not quite as good as the first one, I liked a lot of the implications that your choices had over the overall story. And it's actually kind of a shame, because if that season had just been left alone and that was the final season and they didn't do a third or a fourth one, to leave that game as it was with the way it ended would have actually been a perfect way to just send off those characters, because it has some pretty dark endings, and it's hard to pin down which one exactly is the best ending for each specific character as well.
Yeah.
Is it best, or is it kind of least worst?
Least worst, really, and opinions may vary.
That doesn't work so well.
No, I thought the second season was actually quite good. Obviously the first one it's quite hard to beat, but I think they extended the story as much as they needed to, and they offered turns in that and interesting characters that the people that we know from the first season butted heads with, and that I was really into the second season, more than I thought I would have been. So I'll give them that.
It's a question for everyone. How much is those kind of choices So the ones we've spoken about, which is kind of morally grey areas, or we don't know what the outcome is going to be for a specific character until you've made the choice. How much of that is based on our own emotional investment in those characters up to that point, and how much is it around the way in which the game presents the scenario? So if you've got a really unlikable character, like, I don't know, Caden Alenko, because he's fucking boring.
I wanted to get on that, yeah.
I've got nothing against him personally, other than the fact that he's a boring, generic character.
That was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
It's like, if he had more of a personality, maybe he would have a better chance against old Tits McGee over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's our resident space racist against Mr. Generic. I'm a biotic, because at that point you didn't even know that he was gay, and so if you wanted to have a relationship with him on that basis, you wouldn't have even known that.
Right.
So it's one of those things. I could have a really powerful giant alien lizard biotic on my team who's actually got an interesting backstory, or I could have generic Space Marine number 4.
Right. And Liam's frozen again, and the look on his face is hilarious. No, yeah, I mean, shit. What were we going to talk about? Or where was this going?
Is it about our emotional investment in the characters that influence whether or not we see the choices being meaningful or impactful, or is it the story that's making it meaningful and impactful?
I think it's a little of both. I think part of it is our own investment in how much we like the characters, but there's another aspect of crafting the story to make the player feel a certain way about certain characters, right?
Actually, I'll bring up one. I can actually contribute to the story a bit, and I actually think Liam.
Oh, thank fuck for that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
How long have we been waiting?
I was fucking sweating. You guys were talking about Mass Effect. I was like, I don't remember any of these people. What the fuck is going on? I played this game. What's going on here? Liam, I don't know if you're in the same boat as me, but the fuck is that game? It's not called Death Stranding. That's what I'm playing now, which is a very good game, by the way. I quite like it.
Are you talking about the PlayStation?
The game where there's robots and
God's sake, Detroit
Binary Domain.
Actually, Binary Domain is an amazing fucking game that you think would have been made by the people that made Vanquish. However, it's not true. Very, very similar game. However,
made by Yakuza Studio.
Yeah. It's oh man.
Sorry,
just
everybody.
Gold. Pure fucking gold. They shake and they shimmy and just pure gold pours out. Detroit Become Human. That game, I got the platinum trophy, by the way. All right. Hey, don't single out Mr. Evan Piotrowski here. You know what he does. Great game. Actually, no, I don't like the game very much.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought you hated it.
No, actually, listen to what I said and I think the opposite of it. I will say, Liam, that entire story should have been the relationship between Connor and Hank. That should have been the story, because that was the most important part of it. And
we're the most likable characters.
Oh, God, yeah. The relationship between the android Connor, who's investigating. He's an android who works for the police force. Hank is a human who works for the police force, and he comes onto the police force. Hank doesn't accept him because he's an android, and he's trying to figure out what happened, right? So he's basically he's like a turncoat, but what are you going to say about that, right? He is investigating. He's trying to catch androids. He's an android trying to catch androids type of thing. And the further that game goes along, he's a reverse Blade Runner, because you know from the onset that he is an android. And the further the game goes along, well, depending on how you play your cards, you either get closer to Hank or further from Hank, and you get closer to catching the people that killed whomever, not giving anything away. But the choices that that game made were the further you got into the relationship and how the dynamic between the two people, it just got really, really interesting. And it got, obviously, the deeper the relationship got, it got harder and harder to choose as Connor. Like, are you going to be friends with Hank, or are you going to break protocol and lie so that the androids can get away in certain situations? And as much as I like that game as a whole, the tale itself is an allegory for civil rights, and I think they fucking stumbled and face planted their way through that. But getting closer to like how you figure out like, okay, Connor and Hank and their relationship, and how it starts getting closer to finding out about the androids and that, like, it's like they do a pretty good job of like showing you like, okay, this character's like this. Hank's an alcoholic. He lost his son. He's suicidal, and Connor's just trying to get the job done. But what does it mean to be an android? And are we sentient? And do they have feelings and that? And they kind of get there a little bit, but then they focus way too much on the two other characters. And I wish they would have focused more on the relationship between those two.
I agree with you, because the civil rights stuff in that game is like the weakest part of it. Like
it really is, yeah.
It's like the other two characters, whatever's going on with them, and the android woman caring for the child is far more interesting than the civil rights crap that's going on, which is kind of lightweight compared to anything else. Yeah.
What do you mean? I thought there was no politics in video games.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I was going to bring up that game as well, Evan, because I think it's a really apt way of comparing how choices matter in video games when you compare it with the predecessor, Heavy Rain, which I think is a fucking awful video game. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. I think the characters are terrible. I care about the characters just as much as I care about my own asshole. Just saying.
Is Heavy Rain the one with Ellen Page?
Sex to Jason.
No. That's the previous one, Berghoff. The one before that.
It's the one Keith said.
Yeah, it's the Press X to Jason one.
Yeah. There you go.
But the problem with Heavy Rain is it doesn't establish any of the characters correctly. It sort of like shows you, oh, look, there's this character, you've got to care about them. But it's not going to tell me why I have to care about them. Because it's like, as far as I can see, this fucking dude, I'm sorry, not Jason, Ethan is a terrible father. And he's useless at doing anything, because the game is constantly making him fuck up. And it's like, this guy will not stop fucking up, and he's just getting on my nerves. I want him to die. Whereas the other gamers actually give you a reason to care for the characters, and that makes the choices more meaningful. It makes, you care about the fate of the characters.
That is a great point, because Ethan is such a shit parent, and it's like, well, fuck this guy. But like Connor, it's like, no, I kind of want him to succeed, like figure out what's going on here. So they at least in that game they did a better job of like motivating you through yourself, through the character of like trying to find out what's going on, type of thing. So
Also, I'm convinced his son ran into the road to get away from him, because he just thought like some robot impersonating his father was after him.
Jason.
I'm never going to play any game that's just basically polishing David Cage's ego, which is
all of them. Oh, see, I just wish they cut out all the bullshit and just focused on Connor and Hank as two detectives, one android, one human. That would have been a great game, but they bit off more than they could chew. Yeah.
I think David Cage just can't control himself.
All the QuickTime bullshit is what I get hung up on, which is why I don't like those games.
Yeah.
If it was just dialogue, if it was basically a pretty text adventure, where it was basically a text adventure game, but you've got beautiful graphics, like I would play that. I don't need the QuickTime bullshit.
By the way,
I will say that I like Detroit Become Human a lot more than Evan does, and I would recommend you play it.
He does.
Because it's not very long, so it doesn't take up too much of your time. But I think another game that's a good comparison to it is Until Dawn, which
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Great game, amazing game.
Which is like a David Cage game without David Cage having his fingers on it.
Seriously.
I don't know. I don't feel like those choices were as meaningful or impactful as people trying to get them across. Some of them came off as more comedic, and it was slightly cartoonish.
You're
I think that's the point, though. It's like a B horror movie.
I would argue
you're not supposed to care about the characters.
So, not saying that I fucking love that game. It is brilliant, but the one part of it that I think lets it down is the impact of the choices, because sometimes the choices that you make are just the result of correct or incorrect button inputs during QuickTime events.
Fair enough. Yeah.
A lot of that in the last half of the game.
Definitely. When I played through it, I didn't think, because I was expecting it to be just it's a fun B-tier horror movie, right? Slasher flick, right? So I was like, of course everybody's gonna die, right? And it's fun to watch them all die. When I found out that you could save everybody, I was like, what? I didn't know that was even possible. And it wasn't something that I actively tried to do, because I just assumed,
Right.
Matt, what about a game that you like that I'm going to bring up on a different show? The Outer Worlds.
So the choices that you make in that game are meaningful, but they're only meaningful to you.
Is that good or bad in your book?
I think it's good, because it's as much as it doesn't really affect the world, it doesn't really matter, because you're role playing a certain character. I don't really know how to describe it. But
I think I know what you're getting at. I think it makes the game more personable to you, which in turn makes you remember it for the personal sort of experience you got from it, even if the overall narrative happens the same way for most of the players.
Yeah, so it's not and the choices that you make aren't really meaningful, but they're kind of Mass Effect-y. They're red or blue, and that's kind of that's all you get type of thing. But it's still fun because the interactions that you have with the characters are different. So as long as you're not tied to there has to be a huge payoff, or there's got to be huge meaningful change to the whole game world, and you're only concerned about the dialogue that's happening and where your character actually sits,
right,
then the choices are great in that game.
The Witcher 3 has a bit of that as well, where it's like you run across this couple and no one else is in the village, and then they're being kind of coy, and you dig a bit deeper, and they've been like chopping up these kids, and you're like, well, what the fuck, this is fucked up. And you say, like, no, I've only done it because of this. And then you have the decision to like kill them or let them go, and it's very compartmentalized, right? You're like, it's as the Witcher, no one, it's not going to affect any other part of this game. What do you think at that moment? It's like, oh, I'll let them go, or I'll say, fuck you, you guys suck, and then you move on and you do something else. So I do like some of that stuff as well. It doesn't reverberate through the entire game type of thing. So I do appreciate that.
So a game that you've just made me think of, that bringing up The Witcher, there's actually there's three games that I'd like to talk about before we finish. But you bringing up The Witcher, and I've mentioned it before, and if you can play through the story element of this game without getting pissed off with it, because I know no one on here appreciates deck builders, and neither do I, which is why I'm really surprised that I like this one so much. The Witcher Thronebreaker.
Yeah, you love that game, don't you?
Well, I don't love it. I enjoyed it. I completed it. I could go back and play it again and pick up some more trophies. Do I want to? No. So I got my enjoyment out of it. But there are some key choices that you can make in that. And it is like the choices in The Witcher. So which it's not a good and bad. It's a the least worst option, or what is, if I wanted to be scrupulous, I wanted to keep my scruples, or I wanted to spread my scruples all over the floor, tread on them, and then rub them into someone else's face. I could do that as well. So there are some interesting choices that actually does impact the rest of the game. So, for instance, you can quite early on you can recruit into your group a knight who hunts monsters, and he's got some really good abilities. But you might make a choice further down the road to spare a monster's life, and your next interaction after you spare the monster is him quitting. So fuck you. I'm not working for someone who spares monsters. I'm out.
I like that. I like that dilemma.
If you can play it through for the story, I would really encourage people to play it through for the story. Do not try and do the puzzles. Oh my god, how bastard hard some of them.
I like puzzle games, so
yeah. Well, if you want to, you can try and get the gold trophy for doing all the puzzles, because I couldn't. It's just like, no, I've got no time to sit and figure out how to work through this shit, because I was just interested in going through the story. And people can, like in other games, if you make one choice, people can die. If you think you're making the right choice, someone else might die who is integral to your party. There's much more depth to it than just it's fucking Gwent.
You know, it's funny. Okay, so it's on Game Pass. I might actually play it and give it a go.
I'd really, if you're interested in story and you can get through the fact that it's a deck builder and you're not that keen on it, I think you'll really enjoy the story.
Okay. It's interesting though you're talking about like the guy leaves the party if you make a certain decision. I remember one of the playthroughs that I did of Fallout New Vegas. Yeah. One of the guys that you get as a follower is Boone, who's in the town with the dinosaur. I don't know if you guys remember or know who that is. But I don't know what the hell it was that I did, but I know that I did something when I actually got to New Vegas where he was like, that's it, I'm no longer following you, or I'm no longer going to be your companion or whatever. And I was like, what the hell? Have you guys ever had something like that happen in a game where you made a decision?
Greedfall. When I finished Greedfall, I don't know what I did to piss off the Nauts, who are the seafaring guild in that game, but I'd kept everyone else happy through the entire game, including doing some pretty nefarious shit. But I think that my problem was, it's very early on in the game when I was getting used to it, I accidentally killed a couple of them when I was meant to sneak into a warehouse. So, but that didn't impact anything else in the story until right at the end, when I wanted to recruit them to the major battle that happens right at the end of that game. So the admiral, who's the key person from that faction across the entirety of probably the next 20 hours that I played, never a mention of that I've done anything wrong or anything to offend them at all. And then at that one point where it says, try to recruit the Nauts to your cause, go over and say, we can't possibly follow you because of what you've done to us. What the fuck are you talking about?
Totally fucked.
That is a Spiders game for sure. Oh my god.
Yeah, but I played that game for kind of nearly 30 hours, and I enjoyed it. Would I ever play it again to get all the trophies? No fucking chance. Spiders are a studio who deserve to build a game on a much greater budget, because
they're getting there slowly but surely. They're fucking getting there, right?
Yeah. Anyone else have an example?
I have an interesting question.
Okay.
Who invented scissors?
That is an interesting question.
I was thinking of, well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Life is Strange, because those games have very varying effects on me. Some extremely bad, some extremely good. But the thing with that game in particular is, and like, I can think of some other examples of games that where it's like choice really just does not matter here. It's like it gives you choice just for the just make you feel like you're in an interactive experience.
It's the illusion of choice rather
exactly,
than
it's
choice.
the illusion of choice. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people criticize it, but is there any real point to having the illusion of choice other than making it interactive? Because if they made Life is Strange into a television show, or just like say a multi-part video game graphic novel of some sort, would it be as popular as it is as a video game? Because it would probably be a pretty mediocre TV show.
Yeah, I feel like Firewatch.
Everything you do hinges on your choice, right? I suppose Firewatch is similar to that as well. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll give you Matt. You go, and then I'll come in.
Okay, so the choices that you make in Firewatch don't really mean much.
That's another good example.
You do have like the illusion that your choices matter, but it is a fun game and it's a great story. Because I think it asks a lot of interesting questions of the player. So, and I don't think you could do that in any other medium. So, yeah, to that effect, I think that you have to have like a video game framework for some of these experiences.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Otherwise, they just don't come across properly.
Matt, so one hint I would give you if you do play Thronebreaker, one of the first things to upgrade is your movement speed, because it's pretty turgid otherwise.
Let me write that down real quick.
An earworm.
I'll forget it.
One example, Liam, that does that, which my wife and I watched the reveal trailer for Erica. Was it 2017?
Yeah,
that was.
So we bought it for some reason.
Don't, because it's fucking dull. The people who wrote that game do not understand pacing.
Yeah, I thought so. I played the first hour and was bored silly, so I just decided I'll get around to this some other time.
It is turgid is the word that I would use to describe it, and that's what made me think of using it to describe the movement speed in the other one. But that is all about the illusion of choice. So do you go down this corridor that's got a scary noise, or do you answer the phone? Well, actually, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't fucking matter. So bad pacing and the fact that you can see through the choices that you're making as being absolutely facile. Going back to my intro, that's why I've deleted that game off my hard drive.
So would you say that there's a it's like important to make the person as they're playing the game think that the choices they're making are important, even if they actually aren't in the grand scheme of things?
Oh yeah, they're trying to do that. So they're trying to give a sense of urgency as well, to say, oh, there's a scary noise down there. Do you want to go and investigate? But someone's told you to stay here and answer the phone if the phone rings, because that's equally important. So you've got a really important choice to make, which about 2 minutes later makes no fucking difference to the story whatsoever.
I would just love if somebody made a game where somebody thought, yeah, just stay here and make sure you answer the phone. Then the game tries to distract you in any way possible. And if you don't stay and answer the phone, the dude literally comes back and goes, "Why did you answer the phone?"
Or just game over.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next, because they've had Surgeon Simulator and what was the Office Simulator. So in Office Simulator, all you've got to do is answer the phone, but then there's all the other stuff that you've got to try and fix, but you can't because the controls are so shit. So the other game that I wanted to bring up was released last year, and it's getting a console release at some point, hopefully. Disco Elysium.
Yes, I desperately want to play this.
It's like just a top on my list of games that have not come to console yet that I really want to play. Is that game for sure?
Yeah. And that's all about choice and how it impacts your character. But like Matt was saying earlier, it is changing the world because it's changing how your character views the world and how your character views themselves. So it changes all of the other interactions. So all the choices that you make affect everything, but they affect everything by only affecting you.
Right.
And I think that's a very clever design choice. The studio, who I can't remember who made the game. Terribly sorry.
All I can think is Commie.
I don't remember what they're called. I think this is the only
Polish
game
studio.
that they've made too, right? I don't think they've done anything else.
Well, it's an interesting game as well because it's made by like open communists, so it's like could offer an interesting.
Yeah. Who did they have? Fucking hanging in their studio.
God's sake, it's like Joseph Scruples or something. I can't remember his name.
It's like some of that stuff is like why are you like why are you showing this? Like it's fucking failed. Ideas of like how to run a country. Yeah, I don't know. They shouted out Marxism and stuff when they won that whatever it was
at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
It's like why like it's like failed systems. So like, what are you talking about?
Capitalism is a failing system.
Down with capitalism. It's, like,
it's why I'm actually more interested to check out the game just because of that.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. I still want to play the game. I don't give a shit. Like, the game looks super fucking interesting.
Not that we do politics on here, and keep the politics out of my video games, but the pure application of any political ideology or religious ideology doesn't work.
Well, yeah. I mean,
just throwing it out there.
I would argue that it's impossible to apply a pure ideal. So.
Well, it doesn't work. Look at what happened in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge. They tried to apply communism in its purest form and ended up killing people just because they wore glasses.
Yeah.
Actually, sending doctors to paddy fields.
I watched a really interesting documentary about Angkor Wat recently. So if anybody's interested, just hit me up on Twitter and I'll send you the link. But it was a much larger complex than you would think it was.
But getting back to games, Disco Elysium, I think is going to be a really interesting game to play in terms of what choices you're faced with at what point, but also the choices that you've made up to that to build your character into the character that they are. So weird things like you can choose to inflate your character's ego to think that they're some kind of 80s style Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie star when actually they're a fat drunk.
Right.
Yeah, you can like kind of slowly tweak all the stuff that's in their head, and it's absolute bullshit. But it's like, who do you believe that you are? Is the most important part of it. Yeah, I think that is a great way to tweak like stat and conversation stuff in a game like this. It's really smart.
And then the other thing that I think is going to have impactful choices in is coming not so far away, but I'll wait until I get a new piece of console hardware to play it on, which is Cyberpunk. See how I've gone full circle with this? It's almost as if I'd thought about it.
It's literally because they call it, it's like a board game in video game form. I love it. I can't wait.
There you go.
Proper RPG.
But it was one of the things that they're talking about. So who do you want to start off as? But then when was it Holly Bennett was doing the interview with one of the level designers, he was saying that you could have a choice that you've got an ally character, but they've got a piece of technology or gun that you want. So do you just kill them and take it?
I like that the option's there for sure. Yeah.
I really wonder how dense this game's going to be. You know, whether you're going to see things that you wish you could do, and then you go, I'm going to have to wait until my next playthrough to do that because that's really going to piss off that character. Or... I wonder how varied it'll get.
I like that. Yeah, I like when a game, when you choose your character or class or whatever, and it's like you're sort of set on that path, and you see other things in the game where you're like, damn it, if I had just done this or started as this type of character, then that would make sense for me to do or to interact with. Yeah, that's a sign of a good game, I think.
Did everyone watch the Night City Wire episode 2?
Briefly, I did.
So one of the things along those lines that I think is really, really cool that they're doing as a concept is whatever starting character you play as, there's a character from the demo that the press got to see, and then we got to see months later, which made no sense. The interaction with that character is different based on your initial starting class.
Right.
So if you start as corporate, you know this person.
Right.
So, if you start as a nomad, you know the person who she's trying to get a stolen piece of technology back from. And if you start as a street kid, you don't know either of those people. But when you go to see the person who's stolen this piece of technology, you can start talking to them about something because you know that from being on the streets. So there's always something that links back to your initial class choice. It's just how you get to that point is going to be different for each person.
All right. Yeah, I like that too.
Well, I thought it was something I read quite a while ago. Like, I think it was back maybe a couple of E3s. Well, actually, just one, since we didn't have an E3 this year. But I remember them talking about.
It seems like we've had about 40 E3s this year.
Oh, I tell you, God, it never stops. But I remember somebody was talking about depending on where you come from, like certain characters will have less patience for you. You know, if you're just some dumb street kid, then some characters are going, I have no time for this fucking punk. You know, it's like you're going to have to be on your best behavior dealing with certain characters that will have less patience with you. Maybe it could work the opposite way around, where somebody who sees you as like a corporationist, you know, just like this arsehole in a suit, I have no time for him. You know, I hope that makes it into the game. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going corporate on the first playthrough because I'm hoping that it means you get access to the sweet tech weapons early on, because you should do.
Yeah.
And and this is the interesting thing. So they talked about the 3 different classes, and then they spoke about weapons. So it would be interesting to see if you're a nomad and you want to get you can get access to tech weapons, but you've got to do it by I don't know, taking out a convoy of weapons before they get to Night City. If you're a street kid, you can do it by bribing people and breaking into the warehouse that they're stored and just stealing some. But if you're a corporate, you just get given them.
But then it might be hard. A Deus Ex.
Yeah.
Not to the same level, but
yeah. So it's like a Deus Ex, a game that gives you the illusion of choice when you don't really have it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Deus Ex bad.
No, Deus Ex is a brilliant game.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, both of those games.
Invisible War is great as well.
A friend of mine said that the second one, well, the new second one, Mankind Divided, was like a lot better than Human Revolution.
Yeah, I would say so.
It sold like nothing.
That's another game that I'll bring up on my list for another topic if we do games we've fallen off of.
It's definitely a lot. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, for sure.
I can really emphasize with that right now. You know, fallen off of.
I got the trophy for not killing a single soul in part 2.
Wow.
Took me a lot.
He said rubbing his nipples, for anyone listening to the audio podcast. I don't know why he chose to do
no
that.
Pants on.
With no pants on.
And on that note, we're out.
I think we've done really well this week.
I think so.
I am very sorry about dropping out. Very much.
Music finish yet?
Not quite.
Okay, Evan's doing crazy shit. Oh God, he looks like he shaves.
Cheers.
What's going on?